Welcome back. We got the 81 Corvette back in the garage today to do a little bit of updating work on it. We have a Detroit Speed electric actuator conversion for the headlights. Now, my buddy had some problems with this. One of them doesn't like to go down sometimes, so he bought the kit and we're going to give this an upgrade. Now, first thing in the directions, they say you should remove the hood. I do not want to remove the hood. The paint on this car is really nice, and I'm going to try to avoid it at all costs. There's already a scratch right there from where it rubs on the actuator, so I'm here by myself, so we'll see if we could do it without removing it. Here's where the vacuum actuators are located. The bolts for these are on the opposite side anyway, underneath. So a lot of this I should be able to do just from reaching up underneath the car. You could see right there, that's where the hood's already scraping along on these. I have taken these out. They will fit up this way to come out of the car very carefully. So we'll have to either put the hood down a little bit, get them out of the way, and then have them come up over here. So let me get the car raised up a little bit, and we might have to remove some of the shielding down there or something to get a little more access with our hand up into the hole over here. Let's see how this goes. All right, peeking down from underneath the car, there are the bolts for the actuators right there. Not a lot of room to work. It's possible, but let me get the light out of here. This plastic shield, if we take it down, should give us a lot more space to reach up there. So we will see what's involved in getting this out. It's got a bunch of non-original stuff holding it in place. So maybe we'll just loosen up the back ones over here. See if we could drop it down a little bit to give us a little more space. All right, the shield came down. Acres of room to work now. You could see everything and reach up no problem. And we remove the ends of the little rubber air lip spoiler, whatever you want to call it, and the whole thing would come down. It is attached with 10mm bolts, and this one had a bunch of self-tapping screws all over the place, so who knows what's supposed to be original. Definitely not that, but it's off, it's out of the way. Let's get to work taking the actuators out now. We are going to disconnect the vacuum lines. There's two that go to the actuators, and then we are going to undo these springs here on the outside. Got to pull those off. And there's a cotter pin here that you have to work out. I already kind of bent this one out to push it back. And we're going to pull that pin out that way to get the actuator arm released. And then we could unbolt the 4 bolts and take the actuator out. Use a needle nose set of pliers to release the clamps and popped off the vacuum lines. Now these springs have to come off, same thing, needle nose pliers. I don't know how much tension they're on, it's some, be careful. There we go, ouch, right in your face. Sorry about that. That's one. One more. And we got the cotter pin here. Already straightened it out before a little bit. Let's see if I can get it with my finger. I might need a little more than. There we go. And these should slide out. They probably won't because they're probably rusted in place. Little bushing. They tell you you need to reuse that, so save those. There should be another one on the other side too. And we got to work on this pin now. It may require some force, WD-40, and some vice grips. Took a lot of wiggling, but I was able to pull it out. You have that other little plastic bushing that we need to save. That doesn't want to come off because there we go. The nylon bushing that's supposed to stay inside the actuator got rusted onto the shafts. Now with that out of the way and disconnected, we could pull out the 4 bolts. The nuts are 1/2 inch. A wobble extension will help you get out this one over here because you have this little bracket holding a spring kind of in the way. These look like they've been in here a long time. Kind of rusty, but they are coming out. We got all the nuts out. I should be able to pop this right out of here now. There we go. And actually, you don't even have to go out through the top. The whole thing will come out right through the bottom. Awesome. Now we get to repeat everything on this side. Both of the vacuum actuators are removed. We're going to see how easily these move. They bind, you're going to have a problem. So just check how they go up and down. We are going to spray some lube on all the pivot points, and then we will continue with the motor actuators. How are we doing up there? Okay. The actuators are all removed, and we have to take off these rod ends to reuse them on the new arms. I'm surprised they were not rusted on. Now we also need to get the bushing that was stuck on in this rod here. These need to be reused. And this one, I believe, was missing in action. It was just metal on metal, so we're gonna have to either find the bushing or order a bushing and wait. And I hate waiting. I'm gonna clean these up a little bit, and they are gonna be screwed on to the new rod that hooks up to the motor, and they get bottomed out all the way. So this plastic bushing, and I was able to tap it off, so we're gonna put that back into the rod end it needs to be in. And we have to scare up something else that's going to work to do the same thing. Otherwise, I'm going to be waiting for something in the mail. These we're going to clean up on the wire wheel. This one I did. We'll do this one next. And these get screwed on to these shafts until they bottom out. You got to make them tight. I'm digging around in some parts drawers. I found a nylon bushing that I believe came off of a lawnmower. So fits in there nice. It's a little long. I'll shove this in here, and then I'll use a razor blade and trim off the excess. Maybe put a little bit of adhesive to hold it in place, and that'll be good. No waiting for several days to get a 10-cent bushing. We got our bushing glued in. Works out perfect. Thank you, Toro. Now these we're going to adjust so they are pointing straight up here. Let's loosen these jam nuts. That's good. Now we can install these into the actuator motors. Seven 16ths and a ½ inch. These need to be bolted on so they're in the center of the hole. That determines what side you're going to put it on. All right, now we could bolt these into the car. I'll make sure I put them in the right way. I believe this is the right. This should be the left. The motors are facing each other when they're bolted in. I think we have one other step to do. They give you a little rubber block that needs to be glued on. Where the linkage hits itself, or where the linkage bottoms out. And there's rubber bumpers here that are supposed to be for the bump stops. I don't believe this car has that. This might be for an earlier car where the little rubber bumper stop is. There is the arm for it here, but there's nothing on it. Let's see if I can show you a picture of it in the car. This is a 1981 Corvette. The bracket over here on earlier models, I believe, has a little rubber bump stop that adjusts how high the headlight can go up. This does not have it. It just hits against a piece of the body over here to limit it. They also give you a little rubber pad that has to be glued onto this spot right here. That's for when the headlight goes up, it'll kind of stop right over there on it. So we got to glue those in place. And we also have to remove all of the valves up there still because they will not be needed. So we're going to take those off and plug up any vacuum openings in the can here. We're going to leave that in place and let us proceed. We got our little rubber bumper glued on over there. So that will give it a little bit of a bump stop when it goes up all the way. Coffee, anyone? We got all our valves out of the way. We're going to be disconnecting these two lines, but I'm also going to have to plug them up somehow. So instead, we're just going to loop them over one to another. I'll cut a piece off here. This will stay hooked up because it is running back to the vacuum of the car just to have a little bit to run the AC vents and whatever else. And there's another one. This, I believe, goes back to the actual headlight switch itself. So this one will probably be taken out. But let's plug this and get it back where it needs to be bolted in there. It's got another 10mm bolt that straps it in place. We got that looped around and we'll put it back in place. Now we will install the actuators to give you all new bolts and washers of varying finish. Try to pick out the nicest ones for the top that you could see. These will not fit in that way, but since we've been doing this whole job from underneath anyway, there's no reason why we just do these from underneath too. I was able to reach up underneath and get the actuators sitting where they need to be. I got 2 bolts in each one right now. It's a little tough to get one side here. The left side was a little bit harder to reach around for some particular reason. We got 2 bolts in. Now we will go and open up the hood and reach down inside and put the other bolts in from the top. All right, like I said, the right side was a little bit easier to put in compared to the left side. Maybe it was just the position I was laying, but put the rest of the bolts in. This we should be able to do from reaching over the top to tighten them all up. Okay, all the bolts are in, all the nuts are in, but they're loose. And now we gotta tighten them up. There is just enough space to get combination wrench through the hole and onto the nut. The bolts are kind of long. Here comes the air compressor. As I was saying before I was rudely interrupted, you could sneak a combination wrench in through the hole for hopefully all of these, maybe not. Otherwise I'll have to reach around or get somebody out here to help me. We're making progress. Whew, one more to go. Okay, the motors are all bolted in, and now we can hook up our linkage again. We're going to put the pin back in. The pins are back in. We put a little bit of lube on them before we slid them in. Cotter pins are in, the springs are attached, and now we get to move on to wiring these things up. What I find troubling is that this one's not closed all the way. It has to run through a cycle mode when you first power these things up, so maybe this is normal, maybe it's not. We'll find out. In order to remove the lamp switch, we're going to have to probably take out, according to the directions that they include, take the steering column out and drop down the instrument panel to get access to the back over here. We got to drill a hole through the firewall to run the wiring through, but first thing we need to do is disconnect the battery. The directions they give you with the kit are actually for a more earlier model where you could actually take apart the instrument cluster one side or the other. This dashboard in this is all one piece. We're going to start taking all of this out, drop down some AC ducting to get to the back of the switch. We might be able to loosen this up a little bit or just reach up underneath if we pull some of the ducting out of the way. Let's figure out how to get this apart. I did lots more work on earlier cars than this, so this is the first 81 model that I've worked on in forever. So we'll figure it out, starting with what we could see right here. We got one screw in this AC duct. You gotta kind of push it over that way a little bit, and then you're able to swing it down and then pop the other end off of the vent where it sticks out over here. So this is out of the way. You could reach up here now and actually touch the switch, but that's not gonna give us enough space to do what we need to do. So let's loosen up more stuff. We got all the screws out around on the bezel. We got to pull off the knob over here for your reset. And then your bezel could come out. There are holes that hold the bezel on, and there are other holes that actually go up into the car holding the instrument panel in. It's like two separate things. So we have all of those out. Let's see what else we have to get loose. Keep taking stuff apart. We got the side screws out over here. All the screws on the instrument cluster are all loose. It's moving around a little bit. The speedo cable's still hooked up. I want to get this duct out of the way. I got the one screw on that's behind that side, and there's one. If you pull this back carefully, you can get it down in here. So we'll get that out, get the duct out of the way, and hopefully we'll be able to remove the light switch then and drop it down a little bit to work. We got the duct out, 9/32 screws that hold it in. And now we got to find the button to pull out the shaft of the light switch. And if you reach straight up, I have my thumb somewhere. We will find it, push it. Where is it? I think I feel it. We got the vacuum hoses coming. There we go. Hold on. I gotta put you guys down. All right, I got my thumb over here. And we can pull this out now. There we go. And now we could use some needle nose pliers to unscrew the nut that holds it in place. Right where my thumb is the button you gotta push on. And it's kind of stiff, but you'll see where the vacuum hose comes out. Button's hidden right up there. It should be facing down. And we got kind of enough room here. We got to pull some wires out of this plug and run new wires in. See if I can get a little more slack out of this thing up here. I got the switch removed. Now we're looking at the plug here. We need to remove the yellow and the brown wires. Those are the ones right in the middle over there. So the kit comes with the harness, and you got to plug these in place of them, and then the factory ones will plug back into here. So you need to push on this little edge of the terminal to get it to slide out of the plug. So we got a little small narrow bladed screwdriver to poke in there to poke them out. We got our wires pushed in where they need to be. Now the old wires, they give you a plug to push them in, and then they're going to plug back into this little plug that comes off the end. The tabs that you bent in order to get these out of your plug will have to be bent back out, so they will lock into a little plastic piece, and you just line up the colors. Well, we have brown to brown, and then the yellow will go to the blue. We'll push them back together. Okay, the wiring is plugged in where it needs to be. We could put our switch back in. We'll plug it in and throw it back up here. We're gonna leave everything loose for now because we gotta figure out where to mount this control box. And where they're saying here, I don't know if it's gonna end up fitting. We got AC ducting in the way. And oh, that's another solution to work out. The directions included in the kit are geared towards earlier Corvettes. So far we're moving along. We got to drill a hole up over there someplace to get our wiring harness through into the engine compartment. So that'll be next step here. Probably somewhere around there. All right, I found a hole where the speedometer cable comes through, but I'm gonna need help, so. Hey dude, we're going fishing.
Oh boy.
We got our fishing line hooked up from the outside. I got the plug taped to it. Okay, dude, reel her in. Nice and slow. Look, we caught an orange plug. We got one out and the other one is still pulled out backwards. So I might have to just wiggle it out. Oh, there we go. Ooh, that's a keeper. All right. Thanks, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, the vacuum line we pulled out that came up from the front canister control little valves. This one had a connection here. It goes to the switch. The other one that was coming from the switch was supplying the vacuum to the switch. So we unplugged that from this little junction port here and we put a little cap on that over there. I believe this is a check valve too, just to keep a vacuum going one way. I'm not going to bother to test it, but that's disconnected now, and these lines we are going to probably just leave them here and hide them down underneath the car so you won't really see them. We got our wire pulled out. We got to feed it out to the front of the car. Included in the kit, they gave you a plug for the hole that they wanted you to drill. So we're going to slice this open and kind of fit that back in over there to seal up that hole. Now we got to hide the wiring along with the factory wiring and the other vacuum lines over here. There is a hole in the radiator support, a little gap in here. I don't know if you can see my fingers sticking through there. We'll feed the wire through that and out to the actuators in the front of the car. So we got some factory little clips here. We might have to open up a few of them to let the wire go in that way. So let's pull that through and plug in our actuators. Okay, after jerking around all these orange plugs on the end to get them through that little tiny hole, I want to make sure that the wiring harness is good. So we have our ohm meter hooked up over here, and we're going to tone out each one of these wires. We're on the green wire right there now. Find the green wire in over here and see if it's good. Yeah, we are good. We'll check all the rest of them just to make sure we don't have any wiring issues after it is all installed. So let's move on with hiding wires now. The yellow and orange wire will go to the driver's side. Click. And the other purple and green goes to the passenger side. I imagine the current of them is running different. If you switch them, they'll probably be doing something weird because one motor is spinning one way and probably spinning the other way. At least that's my assumption. So we got to hide the wire a little bit nicer over here underneath and neaten that up and then go on to the inside of the car. The wiring is hidden through the engine compartment. Now we got to start hiding some wiring inside here. We have to pull the kick panel off over here. There's one Phillips head screw that holds that in place. We need to attach a lead to ground. I could see there's already a ground lead here that's screwed to something, so we'll probably just jump off of that one or look for another one. Maybe another hole we could put a screw in over here. And we need to power this up also. So there's a red wire here. They give you a little jumper wire for the later models that'll plug into this and will plug directly into the fuse box on one of the battery leads. Then we need to find a place to hide this. Like I said, the directions for this show a more earlier model, and they want it stuffed up above the steering column And there is no space up there for that at all. There is no way that would go up there. And without ripping the rest of the this out, and stuffing it up underneath there. But what if you need to get to it? I don't want to have to go through all of that. So we may take it off of this bracket and fasten it up someplace else where it'll be out of the way. But first, I want to see if this works. I hooked up a new ground right here with a new screw. I left that one alone. I'm not sure what it's hooked up to, but there's a fuse that's in line with this. We got our jumper wire on here, and we're going to plug it into the fuse box. We're going to do the one on the top. The one on the bottom there looks like it's slightly bent, like something was shoved in it before, so we want a good connection. Plug it in over there. Oh, tight squeeze. Big guy shoved under the dash of a small car. All right, that's in there nice and solid. We do not have the controller plugged in yet, so, and the battery is still disconnected. But what I do want to do is I'm going to hook the battery up temporarily and check that we have voltage coming here from the red to the black. This way I'll know my ground is good and I have good power. So let's do that. All right, battery is hooked up. I have my test light just jammed in the back of this, and we will touch the other end. See if we got juice. It's difficult to me to do this with one hand, but we'll see if it works. Let's see. There, we got power here. Now, inside the battery terminal, I would assume that it would be a hot terminal. This is hot all the time, so it'll be fused. I imagine this way, if the key's off, you should be able to still turn the lights off and have them close and go down. So that's good. Disconnect the battery again, and then we will proceed in plugging all this in. Okay, we got everything plugged in. The battery is off. As soon as I go to hook this up, we should kind of hear something wanting to run. I will hook this up while you try to watch over there. I heard something. Let's get the battery tightened up all the way. Okay, that's slightly ajar. Headlight closed where it needs to be. Now this one closed lower anyway. I might have to adjust that one up a little bit just to get a little bit higher. Oh, we got something beeping at us now too. Let me close the hood. The ignition is off right now. I will turn it on and pull on our headlight switch on. All right, the car's not running, so we don't have full voltage, but there we go. And the battery might be a little low right now, but success. Now we just got to hide all the rest of this. Fun, 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 and put everything else back together. The little rubber plug that they gave, we cut a slit in it, opened up the center of it, and we will fill in that little hole over there where our wiring went through and the speedometer cable came out. That'll be tight and jamming my hand and fingers down in there, but I'm pretty sure we'll get it done. Okay, that's plugged up. Now, somehow we need to get all of this to fit up in there. I had actually loosened up the steering column a little bit just to drop it down, but a little bit of space to move the instrument cluster out. So we'll get the instrument cluster, the bezel put back in, tighten that up, And then we will start fitting our ducts and seeing where all this other stuff comes. There's other things for the radio here, and the box that we will have to get them there. And maybe a small space to have some things sit right in here above the ductwork. We need to put the AC duct back in first. Why, we could still move this around a little bit. The box is zip tied up over here. Essentially, it's going to be sitting when the duct is in the car. It's like right above it. So, and then the wiring will have to be tied up along the back. We got to get the duct in now and hide the rest of these wires. Okay, everything is tucked back in. We put a zip tie on this AC duct because my buddy was complaining it was always hanging down and a little loose. So now that's tight. We got that cover to put back on, but you can actually look in here and see where the actual box is. Right in there. Out of the way. The fuse is in a covered spot for it right there. Everything's out of the way, cleaned up. Got to put the cover back on. Little microphone. And still got more to do. We got to put the radiator shield on the front back in and possibly adjust one of the lights. It's the little details that count. We give this thing a bath before we throw it back in. There's wet slanting sludge from when the car was painted still underneath here. Scrub it down and let it dry. Before we put the air deflector back on, I want to adjust the height of this headlight door here. It's a little bit lower in the front compared to this one. So we will raise this one up a little bit. There's a little nut on the bottom or a little bolt that you screw up. It should raise it up a little bit. Let's show you where that is. Got a 1/2-inch bolt right here. We're going to tighten up this, and it's going to push the front edge of the headlight door up a little bit. Let's play with that. That is much better. That was a lot of work. If this video helped you out, please do me a favor. Give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. Thank you to all my subscribers already for supporting me. I appreciate all your input and comments, and keep them coming. Can't turn it off.